Hello everyone, this is Dan from guitarfromtheheart.com. Today I want to take a little time to explain about 7th chords. So I was just playing a sort of a classic blues progression thing there. And guess what? I was using 7th chords. 7th chords are interesting because they can be very confusing if you don't know what it means when somebody says play a 7th chord. Years ago, this was about, maybe 7-8 years ago now, I first started playing in a band, and this guy that was in my band, he was like, at the time I was playing a regular chord, like a C chord or whatever, and C major, and he was like, that's cool, man, but put a 7 in there, play a 7 chord there. And I'm like, okay, because I was not a theory guru at the time, and I'm certainly not now. But I understand a lot better how the 7s work and how how you would use them in a musical context. Basically, 7s belong to a larger, I'm going to call it a larger topic that of theory, of chord theory, which I would call it a topic. It's the topic of extensions, right? And extensions are just basically the idea that when you have a major chord, right, which is composed of the 1, the 3, and the 5, if you add other notes, so like you play the 1, you play the 3, you play the 5, you add another note on top, now you've created like an extended chord, or you've added an extension to the chord. To make matters even more complicated, and why I was confused when the guy from my band asked me to play a 7 chord, they're not just one type of 7 chord, okay? When I played this blues thing, when I played that stuff, I'm playing what's called a dominant 7, okay? So you have major 7s, and you have dominant 7s, okay? You also have minor 7s, okay? So there's 3 different types. But when you get together with musicians, they might tell you just play a 7 there, and they're thinking like you're advanced, so you can just kind of like pull it together, okay? But you want to be educated. You want to know what a 7 is, all right? You want to know whether you're going to play a major 7, minor 7, dominant 7, based on the context. And that's what this lesson is all about. I'm going to take a little time to go into the theory, okay? This is more of a theoretical lesson. I'm not going to necessarily show how to play the chords, because you can get that from any diagram. And I may do that in the future when I plan on doing another series just on extensions. But for today, I want to help you more than just showing you where to put your fingers. I want you to know why you're putting your fingers there, okay? So basically, a 7 chord, like I said, you have the 1, the 3, and the 5 in a major chord. And when you add a 7, or the 7th degree from the major scale, you have what's called a 7 chord, right? But it gets complicated because you can add what's called a flat 7, and it gives you what's called a dominant 7 chord, or musicians call this a 7 chord. Okay, so if you ever hear us play G7, that's actually G dominant 7, and it has the scale degrees 1, 3, 5, flat 7. All right, I'm gonna do a slide, show a segment so we can look at it on the board. But remember, major chord 1, 3, 5, dominant 7 chord 1, 3, 5, flat 7. If you just add the standard 7 to the major, you have what's called a major 7. All right, and if you add a minor, or I should say a minor 7, there was a flat 7 from the scale to a minor chord, you have a minor 7. Anyway, let's get to the slideshow so I can show you. Okay, so we're here at the slideshow aspect of things where I'm going to show a little theory and explain the 7th chords. Let's go. About 7th chords. Well, we have 3 types of 7th chords, as I mentioned earlier. We have the major 7, which contains scale degrees 1, 3, 5, and 7. Minor 7, 1 flat 3, 5, flat 7. And a dominant 7, which is also just called by many musicians in a context of playing situations just a 7 chord. And it contains degrees 1, 3, 5, flat 7. So let's just back up here real quick. And I'm going to demonstrate on my little keyboard here. So if we're working from the C major scale, right, we assign numbers to each one of these. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 1 again. We get a major chord by playing the 1, the 3, and a 5, right? So all a major 7 chord is you take the 7th note and you add it to the major chord, and you get this sound. Major 7. Really nice sounding chord. It's used a lot in jazz music. Next chord type is minor 7. So keeping things in using key of C, we're going to play, this is not actually the key of C, but we're going to use the C, the notes in the key of C here to demonstrate this. So if you play a C major chord and you make the third one note lower, that's the flat 3 from the perspective of the major scale. And this is how we get a minor chord. To get a minor 7, you find the 7 in the major key and you lower the half step. So we're going to play the minor chord with the flat 7 added on top. It gives us a minor 7. All right? And the dominant 7, or what we just referred to as a 7 chord, say like if you see just a C7 written, this is what this means. It's a dominant 7. It contains the 1, the 3, the 5, and then the flat 7. Okay, so to sort of sort this out in our minds, major 7th is when you just add a regular 7. Dominant 7 is when you add a flat 7 to the major chord. And a minor 7, it's called minor because it has a minor chord in it, and then we're going to add a flat 7 to make it a minor 7 chord. All right, let's go to the next slide. Why bother with 7s? 7s add more flavor to the standard major and minor chords, right? So if you're playing C, F, G, whatever, if you add some 7s, you're going to get some interesting different sounds. And in different contexts, you may want to add this 7th note depending on what sound you're going for. We also want to learn about these 7ths because they're used in popular styles of music such as blues and jazz. And again, just to have more options in our sound in general. Now, I wanted to show why we actually assign the flat 3, the flat 7, and stuff like that. So here we have the reviewing of the major, the formula from the harmonized major scale. And we remembered when we harmonized the scale, for review of this, you can go back to the video that I did on this. I'll put a link for it below. But 1, 4, and 5 is major, right? 2, 3, 6 are minor. These are the chords we're going to get from the key, and the 7 is diminished. Now, if you go to the key of C again, you have C major chord. We get that by stacking thirds. So you play the first note, you stack a third, stack another third, and you get a C major chord, right? And if you do the same thing to the second note or the second degree in the C major scale, stack thirds on that, you're harmonizing that note and you get a D minor chord. E minor for the third, right? And so forth. And as you go up, you harmonize the major scale. And that's what gives us the 1 to 4 or 5 are major, 2, 3, 6 minor, 7 diminished. But the sevenths, basically where these sevenths come from, is once we stack the thirds like this, and you add another third on top, that's how we get the major 7 chord. So if you're harmonizing the third, and you add another third, not harmonizing the third, sorry. If you're harmonizing this first chord, and you add another third on top, that's what gives you the major 7th. Okay? And then if you come over here, we have 1, from the perspective of the key of D, if you do the D major scale, these notes are actually 1 flat 3 5. When you add another note on top in the C major scale here, you're going to get a minor 7th chord. That's an E minor 7. Okay? So basically, the 1, when you add the 7th, you stack that extra third on top, you're going to get a major 7. For the 4, you're going to get a major 7 as well. Do the same thing to the 5, just because of how the intervals work. It's going to change and you're going to get a dominant 7. For the 2, minor 7. For the 3, minor 7. And for the 6, minor 7. Okay? So we're going to add to this rule that we had, the 1, 4, 5 are major. And we're going to say the 1 and the 4, if you want, can get major 7s. The 5 can get a dominant 7. The 2, 3, and the 6 all get minor 7s if you want, or you could just play minor. And then the 7 harmonizes like this. That's the diminished chord. A little more pleasant than that one, right? All right. Okay, guys, so that's pretty much the nuts and bolts of how that works. Basically, you're taking the concepts from my other video on the harmonized major scale. Actually did a few videos on that. And that shows you how you get the chords that are in a given key. But when you harmonize, as I showed you in the slideshow, when you harmonize, you can harmonize even farther, and you get these 7th chords. And it allows you to spice up your chords a little bit. You have the major flavor, but now you have an additional color that's in those chords, and it can help you to do cool stuff like this. By the way, this chord progression is a 1, 4, 5, but instead of playing major, 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 you get this by playing dominant 7, dominant 7, dominant 7. Alright guys, so have fun with that.